Welcome to Media and Monuments podcast, presented by Women in Film and Video in Washington, D.C. Media and Monuments is conversations featuring industry pros speaking on a wide range of topics of interest to media makers.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host for this episode, Candace Block. In addition to being an invaluable resource for filmmaking education and networking opportunities, Women in Film and Video loves to celebrate the achievements of women in media. Today we do just that by highlighting two women-run production companies. I chat with the founders of Flow State Films and then Root Branch Media Group to learn more about each of these full-service, mission-driven companies. I'm sitting down with the three founders of Flow State Films, a women-owned film company based in the Washington, D.C. area that brings mindful storytelling to independent films as well as branded videos for companies, universities, and nonprofits. Flow State uses visual storytelling to examine complex social and global issues and has produced many award-winning projects as a mission-driven, full-service production company. Today, we're going to learn more about Flow State Films' journey, their services, and some of their work from its three incredible founders. Welcome, ladies, and thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
So you're each super accomplished and interesting women in your own rights, and I encourage listeners to learn more about each of you. But since this is a conversation that's like a profile of Flow State, let's start off by quickly introducing each of you and letting everyone know briefly your main role in the company. And that way listeners also get to know whose voice is whose. So maybe we can start with we'll do it in the order that you all join the conversation.
Okay. My name is Rochelle Shapiro. I am one of the co-founders of Flow State Films. I primarily do producing, directing, and writing for the projects that we work on.
My name is Leola Calzalai-Stort, and I'm also one of the co-founders of Flow State and generally an editor for the company, but a newly minted director as well. So changing roles a little bit.
And I'm Kylie Kriskauskis, and also co-founder and former WIF intern, I want to say. So I've been a longtime fan of Women in Film, but I also do directing and producing and writing. And as the, I think, resident extrovert, I do some business development type work as well.
Wonderful. Welcome. We can sort of get a sense already. You're all super accomplished individually. So when did you decide to team up and create Flow State Films? Like, when was the company born?
I guess I'll take that one. This is Rochelle. So we all met at a production company years ago, I think maybe 15 years ago at this point, 16 years ago, when we were in our 20s. And we all met, became friends, and at that time had this idea that it would be great to one day own our own production company and work together. And it was a dream at the time, and we didn't know if it would be able to come to fruition. But years passed, we sort of went our different ways, left the companies, did our own thing, did different things. And then in 2015, the stars aligned. We had remained friends all those years. It was the right time, and we decided to come together and create Flow State. We knew we wanted to work together to create a company that fit our lifestyles, our values, and do work that we really cared about. And started in 2015.
What was the inspiration or rationale behind the name Flow State? Was it easy for you all to agree on that right away?
So we had a hard time thinking up a name. It took us a while. So I think we brainstormed for a while. We actually took almost a full year to really develop the business model of Flow State and what our brand messaging would be, what types of clients did we think we would align best with. And the concept of Flow State really comes out of this feeling of being fully immersed in your work, being challenged, but feeling that you're performing at a high level. And I think that's something that we all, especially in a creative field, you want that feeling. You want to do your work, but you want to feel almost like time is just nothing and you're just enjoying it. But it's hard enough that you're getting pushed.
You all have experience with writing, producing, directing, all the different avenues of things. How do your different strengths and styles mesh? Do you find it's very complementary?
I think it's very complementary. I think we all I think first and foremost, we all respect each other and like each other. And so that makes for a very collaborative working relationship. And I think our skills also complement each other. So we're able to add our voices and input on projects and collaborate in meaningful ways and in areas where, for example, as a first-time director, I feel like I've learned quite a bit from Kylie and Rochelle just in terms of directing and producing. And they were able to, through my really working relationship and personal relationship with them, able to kind of boost my own skill set in the field, and which has been, great. I think we learn from each other, we complement each other, and I think that's why our working relationship has proven successful.
I would just add to that too. I think one thing that has been important for the three of us is that we talk about our skill sets and our differences, and we're very intentional about kind of understanding, again, who's extroverted, who's introverted, who prepares this way, how do we review scripts together, how do we share feedback. And I think we've over time really learned how to collaborate best with each other's like styles too.
Yeah. So do you all three work on each project together, or is it some combination thereof? Like how often or when are you working together in what combinations?
We always try to collaborate on every project together in some capacity. It doesn't always work out that we can all be working on a project together at the same time, depending on how many projects we've got going on and our schedules and things like that. But we definitely are there for each other in creative ways and also in just administrative ways. So if I'm working on something and I just can't sort of break through that story, I can't quite figure it out, I can easily go to Kylie and Leola and we can talk about it and figure things out and brainstorm.
You have a well-oiled machine, it seems like. So what was one of the first major projects that let you know that Flow State was going to be a success? So like, do you have a memory of when you felt like you were no longer just starting as a company and more like reached a stable and productive foundation to grow from?
Actually, the earliest thing I think that I felt like we made as a company, as silly as this might sound, was our demo reel. It was the first thing that the three of us like directed, scripted, Leola edited, and we directed it. And it was the first time there was no boss at another company or somebody else or even a client giving notes. And for me, that felt very rewarding because I loved how it came out and it really was just the three of us not answering to anybody. And so we've gone on and we've gotten large client projects. We developed the American Diplomat, and that's really been our calling card. But I think in the beginning, just feeling like we're putting our stamp on our own film felt like, okay, like we can do this. It's good. We did good work and we didn't need somebody else to come in and review it for us.
I totally agree with her in that was our first really creative project we put out together. I think there's sort of two moments for me. One is when we got the production grant for NEH for what is now the American Diplomat. I think that was such a moment. I remember like the phone call. I remember Leola calling us. Like it was such a labor of hard work to create this proposal for this grant, and to find out that we had won it was just really a moment of, okay, like we have a future. We have something to work towards. People see value in what we're doing. And it was a moment of validation for me, I think, and Flow State. And then the other thing I would say is we do a lot of films for George Washington University. They're one of our bigger clients. And they had their bicentennial last year. And we did a series of films for them. And they had actually a film festival like a screening where it premiered all the films. We worked really hard, and there was 9 films in total over a 1.5 to 2 year period that we worked on. And to see those sort of played on a big screen, it was a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of stress, because it was over the pandemic that we had to produce these. So that to me was also a very validating moment for our company.
So I see on your website that when you guys take on a new project, you like to create a story map first. Is that one of the elements that makes your process unique? Like what are clients going to get working from you that they might not get from another company?
We're going to tell all our secrets here.
You could say it's a special sauce, but
Yeah, no, I think it's a great exercise because a lot of clients, they don't really know what they want. They know they want a video, but they haven't really thought through what the story exactly would be or how to drill down into it. So it really is a space to create just a dynamic conversation. We're not big fans of just let's brainstorm. Let's just all get on a call and brainstorm. If people can sit down quietly alone and think through ideas on paper and then come together, we have found that to be a much more productive way to collaborate and make sure voices that might get silenced in a conversation also get brought into it. So it really gives us a chance to get to know our clients on a deeper level, and from there come up with the best creative approach to the film that they want to make.
And it also forces them to think through questions that they might not have been thinking about that will help then inform what they want. So a lot of times it's the story of the mission statement, a promotional film, a fundraising film. And so the idea is you really need to get down to the core of the why, and the story map really helps clarify that for the client and for us.
Flow State does mission-driven films. What are some of the projects that you're most proud of?
I'm very proud of The American Diplomat. We just finished it, and it was, like Rochelle said, a labor of love. Put 7 years of work into it, 6 years of development, 1 year of production. Very proud to have actually brought it to completion. I mean, there were a lot of ups and downs. So that's a recent project that I think we are all very proud of.
I mean, for me, The American Diplomat, I would say, is the flagship. Definitely the most proud of that. And there's various films that we've produced and directed for GW that I'm very proud of. There was one on Hurricane Maria and the research team behind it who happened to come from GW, the faculty there. And I'm pretty proud of that one. And then we did a pro bono project for Comfort Cases, which is a nonprofit. And that was an organization we just really wanted to support. And so we did a film for them. And I think almost everything we work on, we're proud of, because we really try to be pretty intentional and selective in the work that we do and the projects that we work on.
I came into filmmaking really interested in the intersection of social justice and documentary films. So I agree, everything we've done, we put our best effort into. We were invited to collaborate on a film with the community at George Floyd Square not long after the murder of George Floyd, and take a look at the community organizing around that neighborhood to create community, protect the memorial site, and really fight for more justice in that city. And that was extremely collaborative with the community there. So that's something that I think we're all very proud of, and kind of felt fortunate we had the opportunity to work closely on that project. And so I think it's always great when potential partners start to really see what we're about and what our values are and the type of work we want to do. And I think that's where we hope to keep growing in the future.
What are some of your growth goals as a company? Like, what is your next step?
I think we would like to have at least one broadcast or feature documentary a year that we're working on. So we're kind of always in a pipeline. I mean, as I'm sure everyone who's in production knows, sustainability as a small business, especially as a documentary filmmaking business, is a big challenge. So, just always having projects coming in. And of course, we definitely want to grow. We hired our first full-time employee this year, and she's fantastic. And I think it's been really fun being able to grow and bring on more people who also kind of share our value system and are intentional with their work. And I think that's a challenge to learn how to manage staff, but that's proven really fun and exciting for us as well.
I'll just say this too. One thing that we were really proud of in the production aspect of The American Diplomat was we were working with a core team of individuals. And when the production was over, they all said to us how much they enjoyed working with us. And just like the fact that it could get very stressful, but we tried to not let that infect the camaraderie or the mood or the collaboration, and how much they appreciated that. And so I think that's something that we do try to just do with people that we're working with, as well as each other. As stressful as it can get, we try to keep it calm and not like get too
and like remember that this isn't, we're not like brain surgeons either. Like I think people can get like so serious about like giving notes and like production and work these crazy hours, and sometimes you just have to say like, it's okay, it can wait a day, or you know, it's gonna be fine.
And I think we all just try to be like mindful of each other's situations, whether that's literally the three of us or whoever we're working with, and being empathetic and compassionate. And then I think really what has allowed us to survive and thrive is each other and our friendships, and our ability to sort of be there for each other through the good and the bad, and the hard times and all of that. Because there's been a lot. We've all been, three of us have been through a lot. So I think having each other to lean up against when needed has really helped us move forward with our company.
Yeah, it's funny because we were office friends in our late 20s, early 30s. So we had that sort of day in and day out bond that you get. So when we went to working remotely, it was easy that way too, because we had such a strong foundation of just being in each other's lives on the regular. So it was, I'm thankful that we have had that kind of foundation of our friendship.
So you guys have mentioned the American Diplomat a few times. Obviously, it's like your big deal, you were saying. Do you want to tell people a little bit more about it, about what it's about? I know that you also have a broadcast partnership with PBS's American Experience. How did that happen?
So the American Diplomat is a project. It's a 1-hour documentary, historical documentary, about 3 Black diplomats, Carl Rowan, Terrence Todman, and Edward R. Dudley, who represented the U.S. overseas during the Civil Rights Movement and the Cold War period. And the film really looks at issues of race and equity in the Foreign Service during that time period, and the efforts of these 3 diplomats to kind of break down those racial barriers and break down the kind of elite culture of the State Department and the Foreign Service during that period. And like I said, it's a project that we've been working on for a while. I have a personal connection with it. My husband's a diplomat, so it was just something that was very personal to explore for me. And Rochelle and Kylie loved the idea. And so we worked on it for quite a while before eventually being able to bring it to American Experience. You know, we got early support. I do want to say that we got early support from Virginia Foundation for the Humanities, Black Public Media, Firelight Media, fantastic support from an interest from CPB and public broadcast in general. And I think it was just a matter of kind of shepherding the project through until we reached a great partner.
So are there any recent and exciting projects that people should keep an eye out for from Flow State besides the American Diplomat? Anything that's like on the horizon?
I think we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, we're still developing that. I mean, we're busy with some client work right now. We're doing some exciting work with Arizona State University Center for Work and Democracy. They're a really like innovative academic working group that is getting behind activists and various labor and social movements. So I think they'll become a long-term collaborator with us as well. That was part of our partnership with the George Floyd film. So I think we're hopefully more partnerships like that will be on the horizon. And we do have some ideas we're researching, but we're still basically in the midst of the American Diplomat being out in the world. So we're just it was a very quick production schedule. I think the listeners will appreciate this. We were basically greenlit with the full funding in early February, and we had to deliver the final film right before Christmas or in, mid-December.
Oh, wow.
So, and it was COVID still, it was pre-vaccine, I think, before when we started filming. So it was a pretty fast turnaround production schedule. So I think just now we're all kind of like coming up from air.
Catching your breath, yeah.
From that. So, yeah.
So do each of you have a particular, like a project kind of like that's a dream project that you would like to one day get done, or a particular subject you want to highlight or focus on?
I think we're all interested in social justice issues. And so I think we see ourselves aligning with projects that have that focus. And I think we also want to potentially continue with this idea of diplomacy and possibly exploring other avenues within diplomacy and the history of diplomacy. So I think within that framework, we are actively sort of pursuing and looking at and thinking through potential projects.
Yeah, I think what we loved about The American Diplomat too was that as a historical film, it allowed us to really look at race relations, global issues, racism within the State Department, racism within U.S. foreign policy, global international relations. But by being able to be in the past, you can really be very factual, and it can illuminate on today, but it's a different way to look at some of these same themes that we still see today. So I think it's been really great to have opportunity and also to work with a team of scholars. I think that's important to us. We had this incredible group of esteemed scholars who've been working on the Cold War and race relations their whole careers. And so to be able to have their work brought to a national audience was just a huge honor. And so I think we would love to do more projects like that with NEH support or other funders that really do let us do a very deep kind of academic dive into very complex topics, but that are extremely important. And there were many diplomats who watched that film today that said they watched it 3 times. They cried. They felt like they were seen or their experience was seen. And so I think that was really important for us and meaningful too.
I think we all like to be challenged and to continue to learn. And I think that's also important in any project we do, especially in the documentary world, is we're lifelong learners, all of us. And so I think that is something we get excited about, is learning more about the topics that we're diving into.
I just wanted to just do like Kylie was saying about that the project allowed us to work with scholars. I mean, we had a fantastic team of scholars, especially Michael Crenn, whose book was Black Diplomacy was inspirational. But I also just want to shout out to the NEH because they were not only a financial supporter, but also just a very steadfast supporter, because it took us so long to raise the full budget for the project. They really believed in what we were trying to do, which was tell a little known history on film. And when you had asked, what are we all kind of interested in? We all like historical. And I think, as Kylie said, it does allow you to sort of look at issues from a different lens. And that's what this film was able to do. But I mean, we're interested in labor. I know Kylie is very interested in labor stories. Rochelle's really interested in politics and democracy building. And I think whatever future projects that we work on, I think it's going to be sort of a combination of those interests and trying to bring stories that kind of dive into those histories, whether current or present, to wider audiences.
For all of us, even before Flow State, was this sort of mission-driven work. I think that is certainly something that motivates all of us.
Yeah, you can really tell that you all are passionate about using visual storytelling for good. I've enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about your company, and you all sound like very fantastic human beings as well as just creators. So is there anything else you'd like to let people know about Flow State Films before we let people know where they can learn more digitally?
I would just say we love meeting new people. We love collaborating. If there's younger listeners who want some advice, reach out to us. If there's partners, we're very collaborative. We love working with other people. I want to say something about WIF, though. I think WIF is a fantastic organization, and I thank you for doing this. And I think we've received scholarships from WIF to go to the main media workshop.
Liv was a fiscal sponsor for the American diplomat. Melissa was also a longtime steadfast supporter who believed early on in that project and our ability to do it. So shout out to Melissa as well.
And Rochelle hired me as an intern at our first job together from a posting on the WIF listserv. So,
And I got my first job in production through a posting on the WIF listserv. So yeah,
it's definitely a valuable resource. Thanks for the shout out. That's again collaboration, as we know through any and all of the podcasts that we've done. It's just a common thread throughout about the communities of support and collaborating with all kinds of people. For curious listeners that want to know more about each of you specifically, because again, you all are individually very accomplished as well as a team, and they want to know more about Flow State or perhaps want to collaborate sometime down the line, where can they go to learn more?
Well, our website, www.flowstatefilms.com. We are also on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook. Our handles are Flow State Films. And
emails are just our first name, Kylie@flowstatefilms.com. So very easy to email us. But yeah, we're on social media. We're on LinkedIn. So link in with us.
We will put all the links to these things in the show notes as well. Thank you, all of you three ladies, for sitting down with me today and letting all of our listeners know about Flow State Films. Good luck with all of your future projects as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Candace.
I'm sitting down with Vanya Pettigrew, a filmmaker, educator, and media professional with over 20 years of experience and the founder and CEO of Root Branch Media Group. Today, she's here to tell us all about that award-winning full-service media production firm that's African-American owned, woman-owned, and aims to make media that makes a difference. Headquartered in Baltimore, Maryland, Root Branch not only produces content for its clients, but also provides media arts instruction to youth through their film academy. I know I, for one, am very excited to learn more. So welcome, Vanya. Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you, Candace. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's dive right in. Root Branch Media Group was founded in 2006, but when did you first get the idea of starting your own business? I guess, like, to play off the name a little, can you remember when the first seed was planted that eventually grew into Root Branch Media Group?
Oh, I like what you did there. So my entire career has been in communications. I actually studied speech communications, to be more specific, at the University of Maryland College Park. I set out on a journey to become a speechwriter. And I had a very, very fortunate opportunity while I was in school. I interned at the White House in the speechwriting department under President Bill Clinton. And just as I was preparing to graduate from school, I happened to walk past the bulletin board and there was a posting for another internship for a television show. And so at this point, I just needed some credits to graduate. So I was like, you know what? That seems really interesting. And so I interned at a television show called America's Black Forum, which is a political show filmed Capitol Hill, filmed actually out of Reuters studio in Washington, D.C. And at that moment, that first day in the control room, I loved the pulse, the energy and all of that. And I decided I really want to get into television and production. So that's totally opposite of everything I just studied and this great opportunity at the White House. However, I'm a writer. And so because I knew how to write speeches, I self-taught myself how to write scripts. And so I pursued a career in media going forward and granted an opportunity to work at a media firm in my hometown of Philadelphia. And to this day, I actually still have an incredible relationship with that production company. So much so that we actually partner on a lot of projects now, and they subcontract my firm to produce a lot of their content. So I went from being an employee in my early 20s to now in my 40s, being a partner and contractor with the same agency.
Oh, wow.
So that's how I kind of got into the world, television and film. And from there forth, my entire career has been in the industry, working for a number of other smaller production houses in Washington, D.C., until I made my way to the Discovery Channel. And so I worked at Discovery Communications in Silver Spring, Maryland, for about 6 years. I worked in leadership. I was the supervisor for the scheduling department. And it was there where I realized, here's this network, the Mecca in our area for television and film and production. And I realized it's really more corporate than I realized. And a lot of the creative production work were happening with smaller production houses around the world that created content for the Discovery networks. And so it was there that I decided I need to be on that side of the game. And so I created my own production company to kind of set out to position myself to be able to do content work for networks and which later opened up to government agencies and now the educational world. So that's how that seed was planted.
I understand Root Branch gets its name from like some of your personal history and a road in South Carolina. Do you want to tell us more about that and some of its early stages of coming to life?
Yes, absolutely. So while I was at Discovery Channel, like I said, I had this idea to start my own company, and I learned about a program in Baltimore called WED, Women Entrepreneurs of Baltimore. And although I wasn't a resident of Baltimore, I applied for the program, was accepted into the program, and that's how I actually formed the company. So through small business development training, the business plan and all that. So they said, what do you want to name your company? And I'm like, that's a great question. And family is extremely important to me. And I'm a first for many things. First, my immediate family to college and to graduate and to really pursue entrepreneurship in this way. My grandparents were entrepreneurs in the South. They were farmers, they were ministers. So on both sides, both grandparents, great grandfathers, my mother and my father's side were ministers. So very, very strict. But they were both also extremely great businessmen because they were farmers and they did grow their crops and sell it at market, or they raised their animals and their livestock. So I kind of learned this entrepreneurial spirit from them on both sides. And so when I had an opportunity to come up with a name, I actually went to the elders of my family and said, I would love to honor our family and name my company after our land. And so our land in South Carolina is called Root Branch Road. And so funny enough, again, this is legacy, years and years being in our family. So back then, the streets didn't actually have names. Like the roads weren't paved, right? So the residents just knew, okay, this area is called Root Branch. This area over here is called whatever have you. And at some point, the county began dividing the lines and actually identifying the territory. And so they allowed the residents of those communities to name their streets. If you go to South Carolina, there's Root Branch Road, which is this piece of land where, a large number of my mom's side family lived. Then there's my dad's side of family, which is Pettigrew Lane. So we named the street after ourselves. But I share that long story just to say it was important to me. I went to the family and I asked them, would it be okay if I named my company after Root Branch? They loved the idea. And of course, they had no idea that it would grow into what it has grown into today. But it's such a great way to honor their work tilling the land and then the work that we continue to do to this day. And my hope is to continue to pass it on to generations beyond me.
That's such a wonderful metaphor as well. I mean, it sounds like you're connected, your roots run very deep. And as it's growing, when you look at a tree and a root system and everything, it's just as big on top and bottom. And yeah, that's fantastic. That's a lovely story. It's a great origin story. As Root Branch has grown, I mean, in some of the earlier days, when did you feel like it was really taking off and growing and successful and was going to stick around?
We've been in business for 16 years. We were doing really well, like out the gate. And at the time, I was still actually working. I was still working at the Discovery Channel. But then life happened.
As it always does.
As it always does. Life happened. My mom became terribly ill. I got a phone call. I need to go to Philadelphia. And I returned home. And for what I thought, I literally just threw an overnight bag in the car. For what I thought was just going to be this overnight trip. Let me see how she's doing. She's in the hospital, whatever. And she needed so much care that I said, I need to care for my mom. So I reached out to my employer at Discovery and said, I need to go home. But remember, I was leadership in my, position. So I had a whole department. So I couldn't just leave. So I teleworked for a while and until we were able to just kind of transition things out. but I ended up staying in Philadelphia for like another 2-3 years. For the record, my mom lived for another 5 years from then, but she's no longer alive. Those are years I can never get back. I was there with her. I was able to care for her, make sure that she lived as comfortably as she could, and just build more newer memories with her. But in that, just really letting the network go, discovery go, and saying, okay, you have blueprints. You need to really do this full time. So I worked the ground and I developed clients in Philadelphia. And that's actually where our youth program was birthed. I was in the midst of producing a video for a school in Germantown area of Philadelphia. And the principal of the school, she, loved the video we did for her, the marketing video, but she said, you work really well with children. Do you have children? Are you a parent? And I said, I don't have any kids. And I've never taught before. And she offered me a contract opportunity to do a program with her 8th graders. And so that went really well. And she really mentored me and helped me to develop a program like curriculum and that sort of thing. And so for the next 3 years, she invited me to offer my program with her school. And so as mom got better, I decided to move back to Maryland, back to Baltimore. And I brought my media program with me. I pitched it to Baltimore City School District, and it has taken off. So to this day, we probably run about 40 or so programs throughout the district. So I have instructors that teach film and photography at a number of schools during the school day as their resource block. So when students go to art, music, or gym class, they're making a photography with one of my teachers at their school. Or we offer after school programs, summer camps, just year round when they seasonal break, spring break or winter break. We offer short workshops just to keep our young people engaged and connected to their learning. So that's really how this new arm or new revenue stream, if you will, kind of took off. But I'm going to tell you the honest truth. I know that the pandemic, 2020, was hard for all of us for a number of reasons. But for us as a company, that is really when we hit our stride. And I'm just talking, this is the last 2 years or so, but we have experienced exponential growth that is just mind-blowing. And I believe the reason is when the world shut down to go home, to be safe, to be able to take care of ourselves, to stay alive, we needed to rely more on technology and video and these different elements to make that possible. And because we've always worked in a digital space, we're an expert at that. And so particularly in the education sector, where we already have this relationship where we're teaching media in the classroom, the school district here in Baltimore specifically was in no way ready for virtual learning. They didn't have the capacity. The students that live in this community, in the city, for the most part, do not have access to computers. They don't have internet. And so they were really struggling. And so project partner came to me and said, hey, we have an idea. What if we produce a kid TV show that aligned with the curriculum that the students are sent home with? Like when governors said go home, they sent our students home with a packet. Work on this packet of paper. And then, because we're going to come back to school in a couple of weeks. Yeah, well, that didn't happen, right? And so we took that packet and we created 30-minute episodes. TV shows around the content that was in.
That's awesome.
It. And so what we ended up doing was pitching that concept to our school district. The school district loved it. They funded it. And we, between April of 2020 to August that summer, we produced 105 30-minute episodes of this show. So massive production in the midst of, again, this was when it was very new. Super scary. We were considered essential personnel. We had a letter to prove it in case we weren't supposed to be outside and that whole thing. And so more organizations similarly have reached out to us to create digital content in mass quantities that they can use educational supplemental materials. And so that's what led me to the point of saying, okay, I know most people are shutting down and closing down and brick and mortars are closing down. But I set out on a mission to get us a studio space because we were booming and producing so much volume so quickly that I needed a physical space and offices were closed. Buildings weren't open to us. So that set me out on a mission I hired a development company, a development firm, And we started this process of May of last year. So in the meantime, while I was in this search, I did identify a studio that I was able to find for lease, which is where I am right now.
Oh, okay.
And so we leased this space, and it's actually really beautiful. And I'm not just saying that because of my city, but really, it's really beautiful. The tenant before me was an interior designer. So I just kind of elevated the things that she had already had in place. And so clients just really love the experience. And again, because we are in the midst of COVID, we are COVID certified safe space. And it makes a difference when you go to a place and it feels very clean. And because again, we want to be as safe as possible. So at any rate, I started on this journey to purchase a property, and I was making a video for a client of ours, a new client who had grown and scaled, and they had bought a building, and they hired our company to make all new marketing materials. And as I was having a conversation with the CEO of that company, I was sharing with him because they're also not from Baltimore, but very much rooted in Baltimore. And I shared with him that I share those same sentiments, that I want our company to be rooted in Baltimore so much so I'm looking purchase. And he said, well, my old building is for sale and it's not listed on the market. Make me an offer. Okay.
Insider information. That's like, yeah.
I go to check it out, and it's prime real estate. It's on the harbor, it's on the water. Like, I mean, beyond my wildest dreams, because again, you know that there's a lot of abandoned buildings and that sort of thing. So originally my vision was maybe to rehab something and redevelop an area, not necessarily walk into a building that's ready to go on the water.
Right.
That's a few $1 million, right? God was on my side, and this entire opportunity has been a true blessing. So we are literally days away.
Oh, this is very exciting. So I would imagine by the time that this particular episode comes out, you will be off to the races. You'll be chugging ahead full steam.
Yes. And I want to share this because I think it's extremely important. The reality of it is African Americans don't own Baltimore's harbor. Like, there's a lot of division. There's a lot of, everything isn't equal here, put it that way. And so,
or anywhere, unfortunately, which is really frustrating. Yeah.
Which is very frustrating. We know this to be true. Hence all the intentional efforts for diversity and inclusion and all of that. And so to be presented with this opportunity to purchase such a prime piece of real estate on our waterfront, it's historical, it's monumental. Like, this is legit textbook, like, history being made. When you think of the stories of our state, of Maryland, and slavery in our state, dating back to knowing that Frederick Douglass escaped from this same Fells Point, Canton area waterfront, to now all these generations later, for me to be able to be an owner of a property that is an entire block long and that's worth several $1 million. Like,
wow, that is wonderful.
Incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it also emphasizes again how important it is that you're doing the work that you're doing and that people are creating the change that needs to happen in the world, that you started your own business because it needed to be done. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. I love it. I also think it seems pretty apparent that you're very proud of Baltimore and Maryland and being in this area. Do you have a lot of your projects and things focused on this area and all of that? Like, how do you celebrate where Root Branch is based?
Yes, I do. Baltimore and the state of Maryland shows me so much love. I'm an active member of our Chamber of Commerce here. I'm a member on the advocacy committee for NABO, which is out of DC, but the National Association of Women Business Owners. Our business is also a Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business. We are cohort 9, forever known as the COVID cohort, because we were actually in the midst of our programming when the pandemic hit. So we were the cohort that went from being in person to shifting to virtual. And I actually happen to be the ambassador of our cohort. So I'm always championing for the program and identifying other small businesses, because again, I do attribute a lot of our growth to having been an alum of that program, because again, it helped me to begin thinking of my business from a place of leadership as a true CEO, and thinking about how do I grow and scale the business. And as an artist who also works in my business, it's like you can get so into the hamster wheel almost of doing the work of production, but to be able to sit as a CEO and to think strategically how we can leverage what we are able to do in this marketplace. And like I said, a city like this who has who has had such a strong need, especially in the educational space, I feel very proud to know that our company was a part of the solution side to helping our children fill that gap so that they don't experience a huge loss in learning during that transition of the pandemic. And as we're acclimating back to in-person, again, just continuing to support and supporting the instructors, because I mean, if you have children, you would know it's hard for the teachers to get the young people to participate in class virtually. So I did a lot of professional development training for the teachers as well, and how to get their students to open up and engage in the school space. So we've done the same type of work for businesses as well. So I do, with intention, set out to Baltimore and Maryland-based businesses to try to help them use media and video as a resource to really pivot, because people are kind of stuck still on how to take what we have typically done one way for so long and make it work in this new world of ours.
I want to get a little bit more into the academy side of things, but before we do that, just, I mean, you are a media production type firm as well. How do you establish your collaborators that you work with? Do you have a set team, or do you just do freelancing on case by case, project by project basis? How do you find who you work with? So
most of our team are contractors. However, as we plan to transition into our facility, because it will be built out with 3 studios, 5 edit bays, and all of this, I want bodies in the buildings, and we will be operating 2 shifts. So open from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. So we are creating employment opportunities in a very different way. And because, again, we do such an incredible amount of work in the school district, we are able to support our freelance instructors and filmmakers because they double as both. So they're on our crew side, because all of our instructors are professional filmmakers. So they're teaching the content, but they're actually doers in the world. So that's part of our awesome wow factor as a company. Mm-hmm. There are other programs that do similar to what we do, but it's a little bit different when your teacher is a news anchor. Google their teacher and say, oh my gosh, that's my teacher. So, or they're really host a podcast, or they really do shows on Sirius XM and that sort of thing. So these are real professionals that come into the classroom. So these same members work, like I said, both in our studio or on our production jobs, as well as we're able to fulfill hours for them in consistent pay by having them work in our schools as well. And so, again, that's something I'm very proud about, because I know, having been in the production world for so long and what freelance could be like, or just being an entrepreneur, just the whole net 30 thing, you know, we're able to pay all of our members twice a month, direct deposit. And so these are the kind of benefits and perks that keep folks happy and are able eager to
financial work. Stability is not always something contractors and freelancers can rely on. It sounds like you're on the precipice of a grand new chapter of this company. What are the kinds of things that you look for when you decide who you're going to work with or collaborate or bring in as an educator or anything? Are there qualities that are high up on your list? Just sort of generally, what is it that draws you to working with someone?
For us, what draws us in with working with folks is our hook and our slogan is that we make meaningful media that makes a difference. So, and that's important on the type of contracts that come our way and the effort that we put into it. So I tend to look for people who are here for the mission of what we do. People want to get paid, and I will make sure you get paid. So that's not an issue. So I need you to actually care. I need you to care about the work. I need you to care about our community, care about the impact that it's actually making. So it makes a difference. And because all of our team feel that way, they go above and beyond as the norm. Like, not because I'm just working people, whatever, but they realize, okay, I should have gotten the shot. I'm going to go run back out and go get that. You know what I mean? And not, oh, am I going to get more hours to go back out to get this shot? Like, they want to make sure that everything we do is excellent. Because, again, we don't take it lightly and we don't take it for granted. And I repeatedly tell every client, every time, thank you for choosing Root Ranch, because it is truly a choice. You did not have to choose us. And when it comes to schools or parents who choose us to trust their prized possession, their child, I do not take that for granted. I do not have children. So the fact that you trust your child with me says a lot. And so they feel that.
So in addition to finding crew that is passionate about the the causes and the overall ethos of making projects that make a difference and all of that. It seems like you're also very committed to hiring people of color and keeping that as like a priority. What do you think is the importance of doing that and elevating all types of people into these positions?
Absolutely. So we are truly a safe space. So many members of our team are from various backgrounds of color and gender. And because we are so diverse in that way, it makes it easier for clients who want to create messages in that area to work with us, because they already understand and we welcome that. And so we can really dive deep into what their messaging is, and it's not coming from a weird place. We do a lot of work with Muslim organizations, or we may do work with the transgender, or so it's just a space where, you know, like I said, you're welcome, and we want to help raise awareness and bring attention to concerns that really need it, and we're a safe space and choice to do that with.
Root Branch offers a large variety of services. I mean, from video production, creative development, motion graphics, branded content, animation, cinematography, web design, et cetera, and so on. There's even more. What do you think that experience in a wide array of offerings means for your potential clients? Like, what advantage do you have there?
So here's how I look at it, because we do a lot of work in education, and what I know about education and being a teacher myself, people learn differently. People aren't the same. So by us being able to offer services in a variety of ways, we're able to create a message, because we're still content creators. So we're creating your message, but in a way that it appeals to different audience types. So some things are easier to see when it's done in motion graphic animation than live action, real people saying it, you know, because we do market research in partnership with our one of our partners. We want to use authentic voices that relate to the community that we're trying to reach. There are different ways to tell story, and there's different ways to reach audience. So by having such a wide range of talent under one roof, we can attack your project and your messaging based on what we think would be most effective.
Sounds like you are very much on the right track with all of this. Are there any particularly exciting new projects down the road that you want to share about now before we tell everybody where to learn more? Or is it just exciting, this new space that you're growing into?
Yeah, I mean, my goodness, when I tell you, I just can't wait to really reveal what's happening, because not only is it a new space, it's such a large space that is created like literally 5 new business entities for us as a result of it, because the building is its own business, and then it has a second floor with office spaces for rent. So we now have Root Branch Office Solutions, and there will be a coffee shop, which is Root Branch Press. And so you gotta come to Baltimore.
A lot of branches on that tree, yeah.
And come hang out, have some coffee, check out by the harbor side. So it's really creating a number of new opportunities. And because we are building out these new spaces, like the audio space and the different post-production rooms, we're going to really be able to move into that space as a post house and as an audio house, where we aren't necessarily those things right now. So, and because again, I'm the first to do it, to bring this kind of thing on this side of town. I'm excited for what that means for all of our students to be able to take field trips and be able to experience this side of our harbor, or even for the new businesses or the small businesses that may rent space from us, for them to now be able to have access to Baltimore's waterfront through us. So again, all the opportunities that this space creates is just, it's mind blowing sometimes. Like, I know that once I take possession and I have the keys, my life will never be the same again. So I'm preparing for that. And there's a whole construction part that has to happen. So stay tuned, because I am to film this entire process. It's going to be our own flip thing. So
excellent.
I'm hoping to turn it into something episodic where you can watch the making of the studio, the making of the coffee shop.
Look at that, a little docu-series about Root Branch growing. That sounds wonderful. Well, I mean, Root Branch, it sounds like Root Branch is your baby, and it's growing up and it's doing great things, and it's all wonderfully deserved. And I know I'm very excited to see where it goes. And I would love to check out that space sometime. If listeners want to know more about Root Branch Media Group and its services and all that stuff, let everyone know where they can go to find out more.
Yes, please connect with us on all social platforms at Root Branch MG, ROOTBRANCHMG. And as we continue to build out these different arms of the company, we will develop additional social platforms for each of those things, but they'll all start from Branch MG.
And we'll put all those links in the show notes as well, so it's easier for people to link on through. But yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today and for sharing more with us about Root Branch. We clearly will be hearing more and more from you, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again so much. This has been great.
Thank you for listening to Media and Monuments, a service of Women in Film and Video in Washington, D.C. Please remember to review, rate, and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. For more information about WIF, please visit our website at WIF as in Frank, V as in Victor.org.